As we mentioned earlier, the U.S. government shutdown is now the longest in the country's history. And of course, the impasse is over President Trump's demand for a border wall. Rafael Carranza is a reporter who's covered border security along the U.S.-Mexico border for major publications like the Arizona Republic and USA Today. He joins us from Tucson, Arizona. Rafael, what is the situation on the southern border? Is there a security crisis that rises to the level of declaring a national emergency?
At this point, there isn't any mechanisms or any backing for these claims that President Trump is having. No evidence to support that claim. What you do have is a humanitarian crisis, which has been building over the past few months, and Trump has talked about that. But the plan that he has put forth will not address this issue. Essentially, the biggest problem happening at the border right now deals with the arrival of Central American migrants, most of which are women and children who are claiming asylum or wanting to claim asylum in the United States. However, because of the stricter enforcement measures, many of them are left waiting for months, weeks, and sometimes months on the Mexican side of the border. And for many of them, instead of waiting for that much time, they take the option to instead cross illegally, which then plays into the whole notion for President Trump that there needs to be some stricter border security. But certainly to date, we haven't seen very many evidence to support that claim.
Well, one of the things the president has also said is that most of the people who are coming into this country illegally, at least he's alluded to the fact that there are gang members and criminals. And based on what you're telling us and what we've heard from other reporters who were there, many of them are women, children. Have you managed to talk to any of them? What are they saying to you? Why are they trying to come into the United States?
Yeah, I've definitely reported and talked to many of them, from Tijuana all onto, the Arizona border as well. And when we talk to many of these families, certainly you have a large number of them saying that they want to come to the United States for economic reasons because they want to, earn money to send back to relatives. But for the most part, we hear some, very compelling, horrible stories from a lot of the migrants who are fleeing violence or gangs back home. Many of the families that we've spoken to, the parents especially, when they bring their teenagers, they tell us that one of the biggest reasons why they're coming to the United States is because they were at risk and under threats from the gangs, that if their children didn't join, they would be executed. And certainly, poverty has a big contribution to that. And so I think a lot of these pull factors, as the administration would call it, is a big reason as to why a lot of these people are leaving. And until those conditions change back home, I think we will continue to see a lot more people coming to the United States or attempting to reach the United States.
Do you believe the construction of a wall on the southern border would slow the flow of illegal immigrants, dangerous drugs, or violent crimes for that matter?
That's certainly the claim that the administration is making. However, as we mentioned, the evidence doesn't really support that. What we do see is that the level of apprehensions along the southwest border between the U.S. and Mexico is at some of the lowest levels in almost 5 decades. And because it is a shifting demographic where it is mostly people seeking refuge or seeking asylum, these people, whenever they reach the U.S., they're turning themselves in voluntarily to Border Patrol agents. So wall necessarily wouldn't stop that. In addition to that, one of the biggest factors, the hard drugs that are coming across the border, a large number of them, especially the hard, more potent drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, those are coming across through the legal ports of entry. So smugglers are trying to, smuggle that through cars or even body carriers. And so a wall or any additional physical barriers may not have any direct impact on that, aside from maybe funneling even more of those attempted smuggling cases through the ports of entry.
Rafael, how widespread are these tunnels underneath? Some of these portion of the wall have already been built. So I understand that the gangsters or drug dealers have built a tunnel underground. So how prevalent are these tunnels?
These are very prevalent, especially along the border near California and Arizona. Barriers have been in place here for many years, sometimes even decades. And so the drug traffickers have found other ways to get around the stricter enforcement and those physical barriers. And the tunnels have become one of those main efforts. For example, here in Arizona, just this week, Mexican authorities uncovered the third tunnel in less than a month. It started out, just south of the Mexican border, just a few blocks, and then stretched underneath. This one was finished, and it ended at a series of drainage channels that exist underneath the border here in the city of Nogales. But these are just another effort that a lot of the cartels employ, and sometimes they tend to be very sophisticated tunnels. Other times they tend to be very rudimentary, almost even falling apart. But it is becoming an increasingly common tactic, especially, as I mentioned, along areas where they do have physical barriers.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Rafael Carranza, thank you so much.